She took money for helping to get nuclear material into Russia. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The foundation is a racketeering enterprise. It's a racketeering enterprise. The Rico'd statute. I was the first one to use the racketeering statute for public corruption. I did it against most of Ed Koch's administration. Well, Ed wasn't paying attention. Well, they were stealing millions. So there we have Hillary. You can't vote for her. You can't. I mean, you just can't. You can't put a criminal in the White House. You can't do it. Now we have Donald Trump.
Michael Popok, LegalAF, back in 2016, that was Rudy Giuliani campaigning for Donald Trump, saying that he, as the godfather of the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act statute, that it should be properly applied to Hillary Clinton and that we can't send a criminal to the White House. Now let's talk about the sweet irony of that, because Mr. Rico has just been Rico'd himself. I would love to take credit for that turn of the phrase, but that's from the Wall Street Journal, a Rupert Murdoch paper. What are they talking about? Rudy Giuliani, before he became a criminal defendant and before he was the mayor of New York, had a reasonably successful career as a prosecutor. He was even in the Department of Justice as the number 3 attorney, deputy attorney general for the entire United States. And there he decided that there was a statute that had been sitting on the books, a criminal federal statute sitting on the books since the 1970s, passed to fight organized crime, kind of all came out of the Godfather era in our country. And it was called and is called the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. It's referred to as RICO. By the way, they picked the initials in order to have some sort of Italian-sounding name as a side note. The RICO statute is now not only on the federal books, but on most states have their own version and call it RICO. So Georgia has a RICO statute. And the irony now is that the originator, the person who basically wrote the textbook on how to use RICO against organizations that aren't necessarily organized crime or the part of the mob, is now being prosecuted for violating those very sets of statutes. So what I was getting to is when he was in the Department of Justice, he dusted off an old statute that had been on the books since the 1970s called RICO and figured out a way and hired prosecutors under him to use it to go after the very, very top, the creme de la creme of the criminals in a criminal conspiracy so that they're not just, prosecuting and convicting the foot soldiers. They wanted the tops, right? The heads of the organization. When he got into the Southern District of New York as the U.S. attorney, he was appointed there by the then president, and he served in that role from 1983 to 1989. He is famous, infamous, if you will, for having taken the RICO statute, dusted it off, rewritten for prosecutors into the future, like one Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, how to use it in creative ways that maybe even the people that put that statute on the books in Congress hadn't anticipated. So he is the godfather. He's referred to as the godfather of RICO. And he used it not just in organized crime, although he did use it against the infamous 5 families, from Godfather fame in New York to bring them down. He used it to not just get the lower level soldiers of the mafia and the organized crime, but he got the top people too and put them all in jail. But that's not the only time he used it. And as he just referenced in the video clip that we played at the top of this hot take, he used it in other ways, as any good prosecutor would, and wrote the textbook and the blueprint about how to use it into the future. So he used it against the wolves of Wall Street, the financiers like Ivan Boesky and Michael Milken, who were put away for years and hundreds of millions of dollars stripped away from them because they played on an unlevel playing field in the securities markets on Wall Street, and they took advantage of mom and pop investors and insider traded to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. He used it against them. They weren't the mafia. They were organized crime in their own way, because these statutes, the one that Fani Willis is using, the one that Rudy Giuliani used against others when it was appropriate, only require two underlying predicate acts or crimes, and then overt acts, which are steps taken by every party that's a participant in the conspiracy. And in the indictment in Georgia, there are 161 overt acts, many of which were involving Rudy Giuliani, who was the captain of Team Crazy, who went around to attack and pressure election officials, elected officials, hold phony legislative hearings in which they brought in false and fraudulent election data to show that there was some sort of fraud when there wasn't. He led the lawsuits. He implemented the crazy pipe dreams of John Eastman and Ken Cheeseborough, these legal halfwits who wrote, the absent-minded constitutional law professors who wrote, here's how we'll create fake electors, and then we'll have Mike Pence not recognize the real electors and throw it over to the state houses and make Donald Trump the president. Or we know this isn't going to work, but it'll buy us enough time, and then maybe we can, our pressure campaign will work. And all that is part of the conspiracy that's reflected in the 98-page indictment. Rudy Giuliani has 13 criminal counts against him in that indictment. But the big one, the headline here is the godfather of RICO, who wrote the textbook on how to use it and stretch it, is being prosecuted under those very same laws. And you just heard him admit in that clip that he used it in public corruption cases. Let me repeat that. Because the new version of Rudy Giuliani, who's running around on television and giving quotes, is saying the opposite of that clip I just showed. Okay? I'm going to show you the flip-flop in a minute. We're going to play it here in the middle. And I'm going to show you how he's flipped, because now he claims, RICO's only for organized crime. I was the father of RICO. It's not being used properly against me. It was never supposed to be for election fraud. Wrong. Even another Rudy Giuliani, a lookalike from 2016, in the clip we just played in front of other elected officials when he was campaigning for Donald Trump and still listed as the former mayor of New York, you can see on that line, instead of currently indicted co-conspirator in Georgia and unindicted co-conspirator in Jack Smith's federal case, right? That's what, you couldn't fit that all on the cryon at the bottom underneath his name. But then he was saying that Hillary Clinton was a member of an organized criminal enterprise and that she shouldn't go to White House. She should go to jail. She was a criminal. Don't put a criminal in the White House. That should be the slogan Joe Biden actually runs with this coming election. Don't put a criminal in the White House. Vote for Joe Biden. That alone should get him enough votes to put him over the top. So let me just show the quick split screen here, because it's so fascinating to watch, because I think these idiots, these criminals like Donald Trump and others, don't think that there's a Wayback Machine or there's any way to go find clips and video and audio and tweets and social media postings from the past and compare it to what they're saying now. That's what prosecutors are doing. That's the basis of a lot of the indictments, or the social media postings, the video clips, the interviews that are being used by these people. Prosecutors have a name for that in the world of racketeering, influence, and corrupt organization. They call it overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. I know that Giuliani and Trump call it First Amendment social media interviews. No, they're crimes, and they're indicative of crimes. So let me run back to back. Let me run that clip again. First, you're going to see Rudy Giuliani in 2016 saying, don't send a criminal to the White House, and that proper use of Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act includes public corruption, citing that he went after the former mayor of New York, Ed Koch, and his administration using the Racketeering Influence set of conspiracies, basically endorsing its use for public integrity and public corruption cases, which is at bottom what the election interference case is in Georgia. And then I'm going to run right after that a clip of him saying, it's not being used properly. I should know. I invented it. And then we'll wrap it up. Let's run the clips.
The foundation is a racketeering enterprise. It's a racketeering enterprise. The RICO statute. I was the first one to use the racketeering statute for public corruption. I did it against most of Ed Koch's administration. Well, Ed wasn't paying attention. Well, they were stealing millions. So there we have Hillary. You can't vote for her. You can't. I mean, you just can't. You can't put a criminal in the White House. You can't do it. Now we have Donald Trump.
Criminal defendant Rudy Giuliani just said this.
This is a ridiculous application of the racketeering statute. There's probably no one that knows it better than I do, probably some that know it as well. I was the first one to use it in white-collar cases. But in major cases like the Boesky case and the Milken case, this is not meant for election disputes. I mean, this is ridiculous what she's doing.
Okay, what a difference 7 years or 8 years makes in Rudy Giuliani's tune. He's singing a different tune now. I'm hoping, I guess, that nobody would find the earlier clip, but we did, and others did, and there we have it presented to you. All of this is not going to work. You know, this, while it may be interesting for a fundraising campaign or an interview or on social media or right-wing news media, it's not a defense, right? He's not going to be able to say, I'm an expert on RICO and it's being improperly used against me. I should know. I'm the godfather of, I mean, that's just a sweet irony that's going to be presented to the jury. That's not a defense, right? It's going to lead to some giggling by the jury. Remember, Rudy Giuliani once said at the ellipse during the speech on Jan 6th, if we're wrong, meaning him, Eastman, Cheeseborough, Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, and others, if we're wrong, we're going to be made fools of. But if we're right, others are going to be in jail. Okay, I got news for you. You were wrong. And not only are you going to be made fools of, you're going to jail as a result of the indictments against you. We're going to follow all of this, the flip-flopping by Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani. The knives are out. You know that show on television, Knives Out? Knives are out. We're watching live vivisection and cannibalism by the unindicted and indicted co-conspirators and lawyers for Donald Trump. Everybody's wearing a t-shirt now that said, he did it, I didn't. They're throwing each other under the bus. This is exactly what the prosecutors wanted. This is a prosecutor's dream. I was going to say something else. A prosecutor's dream. Jack Smith is salivating over this. Fani Willis' team is salivating all over it. And all the new statements that are coming out will just be used in courtrooms as evidence and or in new and future indictments. I'm going to follow it on hot takes just like this one in one place. You know where it is. It's the MeidasTouch Network. We're almost going to be at 2 million subscribers. Free. Help us get there. And we'll keep bringing the content to you on hot takes just like this one about every hour on the MeidasTouch Network. I do it with 2 other co-anchors of mine on LegalAF, Karen Friedman, Nick Nifolo, Ben Meisalas. If you like hot takes, I'm hungry now. If you like hot takes, you're going to love our podcast, LegalAF, only on the MeidasTouch Network. We do it live, YouTube recording Wednesdays and Saturdays. We then put it up on audio everywhere you get an audio podcast. By the time we're done, by the end of the week, it's 500,000, 800,000 people have watched it. We curate the best of these hot takes and stories at the intersection of U.S. law and politics for you. And I give it to you from my perspective, 32-year trial lawyer in courtrooms and courthouses, just like the ones I'm talking about. If you like me, I'm Michael Popok. Follow me on all things social media, including now Threads at MS Popok. Until the next hot take, this is Michael Popok, LegalAF.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.